to Leaders of Tomorrow Masterclass, a series of digital first conversations that we do here on India's largest daily running platform for small businesses. I'm Sunanda Jayasseelan. Today, we're bringing you highlights and takeaways from a masterclass that we did talking about the entrance exam industry. What is making it competitive? What can you as an entrepreneur keep in mind when it comes to this industry? What are really the changing realities of this industry? All of that being discussed with our guest today. People who need no introduction, for anyone who's had any sort of formal higher education would perhaps know both our guests today. Let me introduce them. First up, Dr. Vidya, Pro-Chancellor, Symbiosis International University. She's also the chair for FICCI's Higher Education Committee, and Vishal Badani, Managing Partner, International Learning Warehouse. Dr. Vidya, Vishal, thank you so much for your time here on the Masterclass.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much. Let's start today off for our entrepreneurs to just have them catch up with perhaps what has been exciting and new at each of your organizations in the last 1 or 2 years.
What we've considered doing now is spend quite a bit of resources on making everything technology based, so that we can actually reach out to a large number of people. Thanks to COVID, that everyone's realized without technology it's difficult to survive. So we've kind of been engaging into getting that through, and try and evaluate better hybrid models so that students and inclusive of counseling their parents at times is pretty easy in different cities.
Sure. Dr. Vidya?
Yeah, so Symbiosis International University has been popular for management, law, media, communication, and more on the humanities and social sciences. But since the last 3 years, we've started the Symbiosis Medical College for Women. And I think this is a great step towards providing medical education to girls with the Technology Business Incubator on campus. We have more than 38 companies of students that are, the startups that are incubated on the campus. So that's another kind of, I won't say a change, but a different or a new perspective to what we were providing the students with. So that was second. And third, from a teaching university to becoming a research intensive university. So with engineering, medicine, health sciences dominating here, I think that move is also something that is different from what Symbiosis was doing earlier.
Sure. So let me come back to the theme for today's masterclass. And this is essentially talking about why it is so important when it comes to the entrance exams and the business side of entrance exams. And who better to talk about that than the two of you. But for today's entrepreneurs who've logged in, we are discussing the top opportunities and the top challenges when it comes to the business side of it. Perhaps to you first, Dr. Vidya, why is it so important for students and for parents to get the right kind of counseling when you're looking at higher education? What is the need to have this entire, this industry that has come up? One, what are the biggest opportunities in that, the way you see it? If you can call out 2 or 3 opportunities for our entrepreneurs looking ahead, and also perhaps maybe 1 or 2 of the top challenges.
Yeah, sure. See, we at Symbiosis are the education providers, so typically if you look at undergraduate education during what happened during my time, it was just science, commerce and arts, and very straight-jacketed programs, which was medicine and engineering for science, and for arts, either it was becoming teachers or commerce, which provided, employment in the banking sector. So it was really jacketed into very few domains. But today, if you look at it, Sunanda, it's such a huge choice for students that it's at times even confusing. And I think there, the role of counselors, education consultants and all that is something that has come up since the last, I would say, 10 to 20 years, because of the wide choice that is offered by educational institutions, universities and colleges to students. I think it is difficult for students to make up their minds, and it is very difficult for parents who come from a generation still earlier to even understand what these programs are all about. So I think there are a lot of companies that have come up in the recent past which provide such consultation services to students, and I think that has really helped students to actually take the course of his or her choice, and not only take the course but even succeed in that course. So it's not just about finding the right fit of the program, but even finding the right career path. So I think this area which was not looked at earlier since the last decade or more has definitely come up, and I think a lot of companies and startups have started in this area.
Okay, Vishal.
Right. So predominantly, we being into consulting for all these the last couple of decades now. So what we've seen is a massive shift from STEM programs to non-STEM programs as well, where people are happy to take their chances. And when I say they're taking their chances, it's in a very meaningful way, because students are happy taking up psychology, career counseling, clinical psychology, forensics, performing arts. I mean, we've had students that we've counseled for things like gender studies, which is pretty interesting, in genetic counseling. And the fact that STEM remains cruelly competitive in our country, right? To kind of get into those, a huge shift has been actually into the non-STEM programs. So the number of students who are happy to take up design programs and things like that has really, really grown. So I have a very strong feeling that counseling at an early age also makes a huge difference, like Dr. Vidya said, not only for the children, but largely even for the broader, I mean, the parents, really.
We've got our first question coming in. This is from Namita Kumar. She says she is with Glamco. She's a founder at Glamco. Her question is, can't we have a standard test for all different kind of entrance exams and make it more uniform in that sense? Would that be possible? Does it make sense? Is there any merit in that? Maybe you first, Vishal.
So the center has recently announced a common university entrance test for the 45 odd central universities, but this could get very, very difficult, especially for the fact that a lot of colleges now are becoming autonomous, and each institutions have their requirement in terms of the aptitude that they want from students. Now, these entrance tests, although based on academics, are great, but at the same time, these entrance tests also test students on a large number of other skills which are very, very essential. So, I mean, through these tests, they kind of understand stress management and the psyche, the thought process. It brings about a behavioral change early on for them. So, a whole lot of these I don't know, I would find it very difficult for a common test to kind of be established across the country, which essentially means that if there are robust norms and relations between the state and the central governments, and additional tests can be done, like you have the JEE mains and JEE advanced. So the ones who can manage and the ones who wanted to kind of take the JEE mains and the advanced would make a lot of difference. But I don't think it will come down to that, not at least in the next decade or so.
Okay. Dr. Vidya, would you want to add to that? Or can I take a second question? And this is something that we were talking about offline. Maybe you could respond to both the questions together. This question is saying, how about having, for the benefit of students, a common entrance exam globally for different streams? Say medicine could have one, engineering could have one, arts could have one, English honors, English literature honors, etc. could have one. This question is coming to us from Raylan Singh. What would you have to say to that? When we were talking about, the unfortunate situation of what's happening with students coming back from Ukraine. Today it could be Ukraine, tomorrow it could be some other country where, there are these challenges. Is it possible to have that?
Honestly, I don't think it's possible to have that, because culturally we are pretty different. Secondly, the school education system is different in different countries. And again, a common entrance exam, I'll take the first question first. The common entrance exam for all the programs, I don't think I would agree to that. And I agree with Vishal that you need certain qualities to be checked in for certain disciplines. I mean, in Symbiosis, we used to run a common entrance exam called SET, Symbiosis Entrance Test, for all undergraduate programs. And then we realized that the right aptitude students didn't go to the right courses. And then we kind of segregated it into a different test for law, a different for design, and then a different for humanities, management, social sciences, etc. So if one university realizes this, I'm sure at the level of a nation, you have to have discipline wise, and therefore it's the JEE or the NEET and other entrance tests. Now globally, it's going to be still more difficult. But what I could look at is, and in the benefit of students, if equivalence can be given. Like, we are now talking about credit equivalence when a student has to migrate, say, for a semester to another foreign country and come back. We need to look at credit equivalency so that it's a smooth transition for the student. Likewise, maybe a credit an equivalence for entrance exams can be thought of, so that if there is an entrance exam for medicine, say in a country like Ukraine and one in India, then maybe, some kind of mapping could be done and some kind of equivalence could be given to say that, okay, this is also of the same standard or whatever level, and it is equivalent to each other. That could be a better proposition.
I'm going to slip into a short break. On that note, we're back in just a moment. Welcome back with us here on Leaders of Tomorrow Masterclass. This question is coming to us from Justin Lin. He says, what is the relevance of entrance exams in today's day and age at a time when a lot of the youth is gravitating towards entrepreneurship and being self-employed?
What I've generally seen is, this is a very general thought process, okay? When we are talking about, and we are a nation of entrepreneurs, I would think, micro entrepreneurs to start with, and then, we've seen bigger companies coming in and people taking their risks and chances. More funds are coming in. But the more important part is at the undergraduate level, I am of the opinion, and the very personal opinion, that someone needs to kind of build their entrepreneurial skills around a core skill that they have. Which is where, unfortunately, I think, with great respect to all those guys who are actually studying pure business programs, with due respect, is at the end of the year, at the end of the program, they should be able to identify their functions that they want to kind of become a master in. Not through studies, but through their undergraduate degrees only. Here in India, unfortunately, what is happening is, studying a master's is becoming an obsession simply because I'm not really sure if students are not taking their undergraduate seriously or not. But really, the undergraduate education should change the life trajectory for the next 30, 40 years for them, rather than make the voluntary choice that they are making by studying a master's and going back to it. So I think the entire behavioral change is necessary as far as the system is concerned.
Sure. Yes, Dr. Vidya.
Yeah, so undergraduate education is all about building your character and personality, So now that the national education policy is talking about multidisciplinary education, it is exactly for this reason that you can't be really jacketed into, very tunnel views of things. In fact, what they suggest is a liberal education, even for engineering students. And I agree with that, because otherwise, to become an entrepreneur, you need to have a holistic view of everything. You can't just have the skills and then set up your company and then not bother about, people who are working for that company, or, maybe other things around it, environment and so on. So I think undergraduate education forms a great base to this kind of learning, so that you acquire the skills, you also become a good human being, you acquire the values of citizenship, and there's so much more that undergraduate education can really offer, and then become an entrepreneur. And the second part is that entrepreneurship looks nice, but it is also risky. We've seen failures, entrepreneurial failures, and then what do you do if you don't have a degree? Who's going to hire you without the basic requisite knowledge of what is required in any kind of employment? So let's not undermine the formal education system. Let's believe that the formal education system leads to entrepreneurship. So you can't just get up one day and say that I'm not going to really educate myself, but just, I have the skills and the wherewithal of, doing something on my own. And then just, there are very few Steve Jobs, you can't have that in everybody.
Sure.
Can I add a point there?
Yeah.
Can I add a point there? So in fact, so this is one of the suggestions that I'd kind of given at some level, say about 12 odd years back when I'd written. And how about just introducing one additional year after your class 12 for all the students, for allowing them to just do exactly, for doing several different subjects, which they are not ever going to be doing again, whether it is drama, be it taxation, be it, like Dr. Vidya said, you have to kind of grow up developing skills in all areas and then still stick to the same path. However, your thought process for the next 3 or 4 years completely changes. And while you are kind of hoping to even become an entrepreneur, you know how important it is to kind of work in the industry. First, understand what influential businesses are doing, understand processes, systems, and then delve deeper into kind of making a good scaled business rather than jumping the ship. So, sorry, just my 2 cents to that.
Yeah, but Vishal, just to carry this conversation forward, so Nanda, multidisciplinary education, which the NEP is talking about, is exactly what you are saying. You know, it is talking about a 4 years education. I think 3 years of education in India was something that I mean we did for centuries. But I am a firm believer of a 4 year undergraduate education. In fact, the School of Liberal Arts that we have fought in the court to get a 4 year approval. You know, it was the authorities didn't want it. So you know, now the NEP itself talks about a 4 year education. So I think liberal education should be the norm, so that you try and develop all skills in an individual. You know, you develop the personality of a young boy or girl. So that's the whole purpose of education.
This next question is coming to us from Neha Chaudhary. She says, question to both our panelists today. How and what suggestion and recommendation would you give for students who've perhaps lost time because of the pandemic?
All that you can really do is, to start with, go back to the drawing table, see what areas you were not very good at during the year, seek out for help, and try and solve everything that was there. At least read it up. In fact, this is also what I suggest is read up a large number of external books. I don't only mean current affairs, like looking at the news and taking your updates, but take more wisdom from the people who've kind of been able to cope with this. But if you've missed out on something, take that break, try and study as much and re-enter into your program. That will allow you to kind of understand for the next 3 or 4 years or maybe 5 years of education that you have ahead of you. Sure. And skill-based, it will be absolutely brilliant in the work industry as well.
Sure. Dr. Vidya, do you want to add to this?
First, so I think 2 years in your life really doesn't make much of a difference when you look back and realize that, you know, these 2 years you spend for your family or you spend during the crisis, because every moment is a learning moment. Even if there was a crisis in your family, that must have taught you so much more than what an education system would really teach you. So I don't think students should feel disheartened at all.
The first poll question, and this is a yes or no question that's coming up on your screens as we speak. Will the common entrance test bring uniformity in the evaluation process? And this is a yes or no question. We'll get your responses and share that in just a moment. But coming back to the questions that we've been asking here, Seema Kumar has sent this question saying, it's all very well, we're talking about the entrance exam. Can our panelists enlighten us about how technology has perhaps, if at all, disrupted the coaching and the entrance exam in the coaching industry? I'm a small-time entrepreneur myself. Thank you in advance. Dr. Vidya, first, yeah.
So, of course, technology, has caused so much of disruption in every sector. And I think the pandemic has definitely taught the education sector how to use technology, which we didn't use as much as what we should have. We only spoke about online education, exams through online mode and so on. But this pandemic has forced us to, and I would say it has been a more positive side of it. If you look at it, then it is really built in capacity amongst teachers to actually, work online, also teach online, and obviously evaluate online. For us, we as a university also shifted to online entrance exams, and now we find them much better because it gives the students also the flexibility. And there are providers of online examinations like TCS, one of the big players in the country, which also provides this platform. So I think the shift from online from conventional education, whether it's teaching, learning, or evaluation, has definitely shifted to online teaching, learning, and evaluation. And I think this has been of great interest to faculty members, universities, but I think it has become a great boon for students as such, because sitting at home, they can do a lot.
Okay, Vishal?
Right. So overall, what I've seen is, well, we hate COVID, but one of the better sides of it as an inference is that there's been a consolidation of the entire industry, right? So the consulting firms have become bigger. The coaching centers have become far bigger, and they've been actually taking over other companies. I mean, we've just seen a couple of takeovers in the last month, which were there in the industry for, say, about 15 odd years. Now, with technology, what I'm also seeing is it's easier to kind of reach out to those cities where they did not have access to teachers, maybe in the tier 1 cities, and those are able to kind of throw out lectures to people in the tier 2, tier 3 cities, or even in the rural areas. Of course, we're not talking about affordability here, but at some point, what can possibly happen is these centers can come up in even the remotest of the areas, and students will still have access to great lectures from the tutors they actually want to study. The last thing, and a very pointed thing, is I think this will overall reduce the cost of students and parents to be able to kind of get the right training if technology is even getting into the entire household or the entire system. So I think that has really happened. I've known that a large number of teaching centers have kind of reduced their costs because it's a hybrid model, and they can understand that the real estate industry is not as much that they have to pay now as against what they were doing it. So I think rural areas, in fact, tier 2, tier 3 cities are going to be the biggest beneficiaries. If this can hit the rural areas where talent could be nurtured, that would be the best thing that could ever happen to India, really.
The response to the first poll that we've asked has come in. 88% saying yes, 12% saying no. And the question we had asked was, will the common entrance test bring uniformity in the evaluation process? That's the first poll question. That was part 1 of today's masterclass, talking about the entire entrance exam and competitive exam industry and the opportunities and challenges for entrepreneurs. Part 2 is coming up. Here's
don't endorse that thought that it's too early for students to kind of be enrolling, especially for entrance tests, and right since the start.
So even I'm against coaching classes starting so early. In fact, school children should not be, joining any kind of coaching class.
Completely out of time on today's masterclass. If you have any feedback for us, as always, we love hearing from you. Thank you so much for watching. Have a good night.